The biggest mistake we can make in our lives is never learning to love ourselves. Olive was completely invisible for everyone. She barely had a friend, much less was anyone's crush. So, she decided to change her appearance drastically. She went from being ignored to being wanted by everyone. But is it better to have a bad reputation than have none at all? On the surface, it looks like your typical teen movie. But in reality, it hides a lesson that you and I probably ignored for the first time we saw it. The poison of external validation. Before she gained a reputation as an easy girl, Olive was invisible. In fact, we see her pathetically picking up her book from the floor while her friend Rihanna watches. Rhi insists and begs her to go camping with her family, but Olive makes up a story about having a date with a college guy named George to avoid her in her plan. Rhi's parents are very weird. They like smoking more than cigarettes and dance with few clothes. Obviously, the date was just an excuse, since Olive spent the entire weekend at home, chilling with her dog and singing. On Monday, when Rhi asks Olive about the date, she makes up that George was amazing and that they spent the whole weekend together. When Rhi asks if they did it, Olive replies no, but Rhi doesn't believe her and is convinced that Olive lost her Rhi card. She drags her to the bathroom, and since Olive liked feeling superior to Rhi for once, she ends up saying yes and ends up making it up that it did happen. She plays along, and thus she begins to construct one lie after another. However, Olive does not realize that Marian, a religious, overly conservative woman and president of Christian Club dedicated to shove their beliefs in everyone's throat, heard everything. Marian repudiates her actions, and after this, the rumor of what she did spreads through the school. Olive tries to explain to Marianne that what she heard in the bathroom isn't true, but Marianne doesn't believe her and tells her that God will judge her for her indecencies. As the day goes on, Olive realizes she's getting more stares than ever before, which she likes, even though it's not for the right reasons. Olive has been in love with a boy named Todd since she was 8 years old. When they were that age, they were in a room together and had to kiss. But since Todd was afraid to do it, Olive helped him lie so that everyone would believe that they had kissed. That night, we met Olive's family, her mom, her dad, and her adopted brother. During dinner, Olive asked them if they can confirm that she was in the room all weekend. The next day at school, Olive starts receiving a lot of attention from boys. Even though she hadn't planned it, she begins to enjoy it. The reason is very simple. We all seek validation. It's natural. Anyone who tells themselves they don't need anyone's attention is lying to themselves. Society is a complex, interconnected network of individuals, and every person, in turn, subsets and thrives to a certain degree on the quality of other connections with others. If you were totally isolated, it's like something was missing. It's impossible for our species to survive without the warmth, affection, and empathy of others. A sense of belonging and affection are fundamental aspects of life for the full development of human beings. This is what Abraham Maslow proposed in his famous pyramid of human needs. Therefore, validation from our close group regarding our behavior and personality is a natural component of life. The problem arises when we compromise our self-esteem by constantly depending on external validation without ever working on our own validation. There must be a balance between what others value in you and what you value in yourself. When we are teenagers, that balance is off, and that's normal. We are discovering a world that forces us to be someone. We have an urgency to fit in and belong to the groups we consider to have affinity with. Olive revealed her self-perception. She feels invisible, anonymous in a world that seems to ignore her. This feeling suggests low self-esteem. Adding to this is the fact that although her family is warm and accepting, she lacks genuine connections at school. Her social circle is quite limited. She only has one friend, Rhi, but this relationship doesn't seem emotionally fulfilling. More than a friendship based on a genuine affection, it seems a connection sustained by routine and the nostalgia of having been friends since childhood. From the beginning, we notice that Rhi shows little consideration for Olive. For example, she didn't help her pick up her papers when they fell. And when Olive tries to express something, Rhi always hears what she wants to hear instead of paying real attention. This context helps us understand why Olive begins to enjoy popularity after feeling ignored for so long. This attention seems to fill an emotional void, a need for validation and recognition that she has felt in her social life. In class with Mr. Griffin's favorite teacher, they read The Scarlet Letter, a story about a girl accused of having an affair with a minister. Based on rumors, she's forced to wear an A letter in her chest for idolatry. In the end, the town realizes she was wrongly judged because she was a good person, and she dies considered a saint. Nina, a classmate, suggested that the girl in the novel was a slut and deserved what happened to her. Then she says that Olive should wear a scarlet letter on her chest and insults her. Olive replies that she's practically naked and throws a nasty insult at her, which sends her straight to the principal's office. The principal, annoyed by her language, gives her detention, something that never happened to her before. As Olive leaves, she runs into Todd, the boy she likes since 8th grade. Todd is the school's recently changed mascot, a groundhog. Ree then approaches Olive and asks her if the rumor is true that she insulted her classmate and then punched her in the chest. Olive is surprised on how quickly the gossip has spread, especially since she's never actually hit anyone. She decides to tell Ree that she's never actually been intimate, but as always, Ree didn't listen. When Olive gets home, she tells her parents what happened. They ask her exactly what she said, but she doesn't want to say it in front of her little brother, so they try to guess by asking questions. Olive ends up spilling it out with her peas on her plate. Although they ask her why she said it, her parents are understanding and don't punish her. Olive serves her detention by cleaning the school with Brandon, a boy who was punished for fighting after constant bullying about his sexuality. While they're talking, Olive learns about the exaggerated rumors circulating about her, like the guy being much older or that he gave her crabs. Brendan confesses his sexuality to her, and Olive reveals that the whole rumor is false, and advises him to pretend to be straight if he wants to belong, or simply accept it and live with the consequences. After this, Brandon goes to visit Olive and asks her if she wants to go out with him, pretending. She refuses, but he comes up with the idea that they can say that they only slept together once, which will benefit both of them. It will continue to fuel her image as an easy girl, and people will believe he's straight, so they'll stop bothering him for the rest of high school. Together, they plan to attend a party. Both arrive at a party where they both pretend to be drunk and are all over each other. Olive asks the hostess if he can use her room so Brandon can finish telling her a very funny joke. The host gets the message and tells him to use her own room. Then she locks herself in the room. Olive hangs her clothes on the door and so no one can see. They both make exaggerated noises to make others think something happened. When they finish, Brandon thanks her for helping him. As she leaves the room, Olive runs into Todd, but it's very uncomfortable because other boys bother her, so she goes home. Later, Ree calls her. She's visibly disgusted by her friend's actions and asks Olive if it's true that she was with Brandon at the party. Olive lies and says yes. Ree doesn't take it well, warns her that she's getting a bad reputation, and tells her that personally thinks she deserves it. They argue. Olive hangs up, throws her phone, and decides to embrace the new identity that others and herself have imposed on her. In the beginning, Ree appeared supportive when Olive started gaining attention, but that attitude soon shifted into criticism and disapproval. Ree seemed comfortable being the one in the spotlight, someone viewed as confident and experienced, and having Olive as the quieter, less notable friend reinforced that dynamic and made Ree feel more important. Meanwhile, Olive appeared to hold on to the friendship because she believed Ree also needed someone by her side, someone who could keep her from feeling isolated. Yet once Olive began attracting attention herself, it exposed Ree's jealousy, which quickly turned into hostility and personal attacks. Their friendship lacked a sense of equality or freedom, since the relationship is built around imbalance of power, where one person constantly gives in to avoid conflict or gain approval. That kind of dynamic often creates emotional dissatisfaction. In Olive's interaction with Ree, it becomes obvious that Ree rarely leaves space for Olive to refuse or disagree. The invitation to go camping with her family came across less like a genuine choice and more like pressure, while Ree's questions about the rumors sounded more accusatory than curious. At the same time, Olive struggles to establish clear boundaries, which is why she resorted to lying to escape an uncomfortable situation. If you cannot comfortably say no or express limits in everyday interactions, doing so in a more emotionally intense situation becomes even harder, and we'll soon see how this affects Olive, since she doesn't know how to say no. The next day, Olive arrives at school wearing a very revealing top with a large A on the chest, attracting all the boys' attention. Ree doesn't like this and starts insulting Olive, who doesn't care much, which infuriates Ree even more, leading her to shout that it's all over between them. Later, at the pool, a boy named Evan approaches her and tells her that Brandon told him what she did for him. He asks her to do the same, offering to pay her. Olive initially refuses, but then, after hearing him speak badly of himself, she feels sorry for him and agrees in exchange for a $100 gift card. The news that Olive does these things for money spreads quickly, and she starts receiving more requests. She says she was with someone, that she had a special experience, that she went to the movies with someone, and even that she showed her private parts to someone. The desire to belong and satisfy that human need for social affection leads us to adopt all sorts of behaviors to find the validation we so desperately crave. We change the way we speak, acquire new clothes, develop the same tastes as our tribe, adopt life's perspectives that align with what we believe the group values. This process of finding belonging and affection becomes distorted when we forget to develop the natural inherent components of our being. Because each of us possess uniqueness. We differ from one another beyond a genetics and physical appearance. We have different skills, talents, and virtues. Olive is charismatic, funny, and very intelligent, but of course, all of this is being overshadowed by an image of being an easy girl, which does make her feel noticed, but doesn't suit her at all. Not knowing who we truly are allows others to define us. Not loving ourselves encourages others to be in the provider of love so that we don't have to deal with the pain of recognizing our inner emptiness. We resort to increasingly elaborate lies. Olive herself expresses how far removed she is from this lie that is being created. Unlike those who believed in it at school, she likes romanticization and the grand gestures seen in the 80s movies. But with disappointments, she recounts how resigned she is. Later, Olive has a conversation with her favorite teacher, Mr. Griffer, who asks her what she's doing. Olive tells her that everything she's heard is just rumors. He believes her, but still arranges a meeting between Olive and his wife. The school counselor, Miss Griffith tells Olive that she understands she seems to be making a statement, but she just wants to know why and that she can trust her. Olive replies that she has a reputation to uphold, and the counselor gives her several condoms. Although Olive says she doesn't need them, the counselor insists and lets her go. One of the more interesting parts of the story is how quickly Olive becomes defined by rumors instead of who she actually is. Despite being smart, funny, and genuinely caring, people focus entirely on assumptions about her private life, as just seeing her almost like an object, and everything else about her fades into the background. The movie shows how easily people reduce someone to a single narrative, especially when gossip becomes more entertaining than the true selves. What stands out is that most characters judging Olive are not really interested in understanding her. The rumors simply give something to talk about and someone to project onto. In the process, Olive slowly stops being seen as a person and starts being an idea shaped by everyone else's opinion. The film uses that shift to highlight how damaged labels and assumptions can become once they take on a life of their own. Because her boyfriend's parents, who's older, are going to get their divorce. Marianne is worried about what people will say at her church. Olive tries to comfort her and tells her everything will be alright. Marianne, surprised by her kindness, assumes she's touched her heart and asks if she wants to be her friend. Without waiting for an answer, she celebrates their new friendship. They're friends for a day, but everything changes when Mika is diagnosed with chlamydia. When he asks his mother how he contracted it, he makes up a story that it was from Olive, and the rumor spreads. Marianne, furious, slaps Olive in the locker room, stares at her, and mocks her. When Mika calls Counselor Griffith, we discover that they're having an affair and that she was the one who gave him chlamydia. The counselor is now terrified that her secret will be discovered. When Olivia talks to the counselor, she confesses everything and apologizes. She says her marriage isn't going well, and that they haven't been close in months, and that she gives into the temptation when someone attractive appeared and treated her well. She explains that Mika blamed Olive to protect her from being fired, but promised to fix it anyway. Regardless, seeing how bad the counselor felt, Olive decides to take the blame for her. How Olive got to this point is an interesting note. Her first lie didn't stem from a desire of attention or to change how she was perceived, but from a deep empathy for others. The lie about the college guy she was dating had no other purpose than to avoid hurting her friend's feeling, but not wanting to go to the camp with her family. However, that lie had an unexpected consequence. Attention. Suddenly, Olive went from being invisible to being the center of attention, and she liked it. This led her to lie more. But although she enjoyed the whole new role, her actions still stemmed primarily from empathy. Helping Brandon and other guys wasn't an act to gain more popularity. She did it because she felt bad for them, because she wanted to help. Her empathy was genuine. Empathy in quotes. Because if we analyze what happened when she spoke with Brandon, they both knew what it was like to feel less than others, to feel rejected, and that's why she felt the urge to help him, to give him the help, the attention, the affection that she would have liked to receive. It seems that her empathy comes from a deeper wound. Empathy and compassion are virtuous, but they need balance. If they don't go hand in hand with self-care, they can become harmful to both the one who practices them and those who receive them. For example, Olive absolved Mrs. Griffin of responsibility for her actions, which prevents her from facing the consequences of her affair. We need to find the balance between caring for others and attending our own. It is essential to learn to set boundaries. something Olive has not been able to do from the very beginning. Her inability to say no triggers many of the problems she faces. And as I said before, she couldn't tell Reed that she didn't want to go to the camp. And then she hasn't known how to refuse those who ask her for help. As she left, Olive encountered Marianne and her religious group, including her former friend who was protesting against her with signs. This led her to seek spiritual guidance. So, she went to confession and admitted everything, saying she thought she wasn't doing any harm because nothing was real. But now, many people hate her, and she herself is starting to hate herself. She asked if she had really done something wrong, but when she didn't get an answer, she opened the window and discovered that no one was there. Then, she looked for another church and spoke to the pastor, asking him what would be worse, committing adultery or lying. She accidentally knocked over a framed family photo, revealing that Marianne was his daughter, and Olive ran out of there. It's inevitable to feel a frequent sense of not being enough, of not being able to be what we pretend to be, because it's incoherent with who we truly are. The contradictions between pretending to be and actually being generates a profound state of dissatisfaction with life. Not loving oneself leads to seeking affection and approval from superficial external sources. How is it possible to enjoy life if we don't first enjoy who we are? We will never be able to laugh naturally, cry with feeling, appreciate life, and love passionately if we don't first find self-love. Driven by the need to satisfy our basic needs for affection, Olive creates an illusory image of herself that she believes others will accept, without realizing that most people aren't completely interested in what she really is. Perhaps she will find reaction to what she shows. Perhaps they will flatter her or criticize her, but people live in their own world, and they won't care about stepping on you if it benefits them. It might be Olive's empathy, but it's also a clear lack of self-respect to allow others to lie at her expense just to avoid disappointing them. She herself is letting herself down. Olive is eating lunch alone. Now that she's the most talked about girl in school, she feels lonelier than ever and wonders why no guy wants to go on a real date with her. However, a guy named Anson approaches her and asks her out on a date, something that had never happened to her before. And she accepts. That night, they go to the Lobster Shack restaurant, where Olive, nervous, keeps talking about interesting facts. Suddenly, the waiter comes in singing, "Happy birthday," and the person carrying the cake is Todd, something Olive didn't know. Besides, it's Reed's birthday, and the girl who has always been in love with Anson. Olive feels guilty and asks to go outside. Anson gives Olive a $200 gift card, making it clear that it wasn't a genuine date, but an attempt to sleep with her. Olive tells him she doesn't do those things for money, that it's all just a rumor, but he insists. So she pushes him away and leaves crying. The overflowing compassion and empathy without clear boundaries ended up working against Olive. The attention she received didn't bring her the authentic connection she desperately craved. No one approached her to truly get to know her. They only sought her out to use her. And when Olive needed support, the people she had helped weren't there for her. Most simply, took advantage of her kindness. This often happens when it's not accompanied by clear boundaries. Olive finds herself more alone than ever. When Todd finishes his shift and sees Olive crying, he offers to take her home. During the walk, she confesses that all the rumors are false, but they made her feel as if they were true. She's sure she's never believed them. She remembers once in 8th grade, when they were locked in the 7 Minutes in Heaven game, Todd wasn't ready for his first kiss, and Olive agreed to lie, saying they had kissed. He admits he would have liked that to have been his first kiss, since his real first kiss was with Ree, and he didn't like it. Olive feels hurt because Ree knew how she felt about him. When they arrive home, Todd tells her that he thinks she's an amazing girl and asks if she can kiss her. Olive replies no, explaining that she wanted to kiss him since 8th grade, but she wants it to be special and to get her life in order. He offers her to help her. To really understand the way people react to Olive throughout the movie, it helps to look back at what happened years earlier. As we heard before, when Olive and Todd were in the 8th grade, Todd asked her to lie about their kiss because he was afraid of how other kids would see him if the truth comes out. Back then, fitting in and protecting his image clearly mattered a lot to him. The fear of being judged shaped the way he acted, even in something as small as harmless as a kiss. What makes Todd interesting though, is how much he has changed since then. By the time the events of the film takes place, he becomes a school mascot, constantly walking around in an over-the-top costume that naturally attracts attention and jokes from everyone around him. But unlike his younger self, he no longer seems embarrassed by any of it. Instead of trying to avoid ridicule, he embraces it completely. He treats the whole thing with humor and confidence, almost as if he stopped giving power to other people's opinion. That same attitude shows up again when we see him working at Lobster Shack, enthusiastically wearing a ridiculous lobster hat and singing happy birthday without any shame or self-conscious. Moments like these may seem small, but they reveal a lot about who Todd has become. He's comfortable enough with himself that he no longer needs constant approval from the people around him. Whether others laugh at him or not, simply doesn't define him anymore. This personal growth is also reflected in the way he sees Olive. While the rest of the school becomes obsessed with gossip and reputation, Todd's feeling towards her remain unchanged. He doesn't let rumors shape his opinion about her. Unlike many other students, he's no longer driven by social pressure or the need to fit in. Todd understands who he is, and because of that, he's also able to see Olive beyond the image everyone else has created around her. Determined to clear things up, Olive asks the people she's helped to tell the truth. Brandon came out of the closet and left home, and the others refused to help her. Even Mrs. Griffith suggests she accepts the situation. In a fit of rage, Olive goes to Miss Griffith's office and tells him that his wife has chlamydia and that she transmitted it to Marianne's boyfriend. Then she leaves. Later, Olive regrets it, realizing she ruined a marriage. That night, she talks to her mother about everything that happened since her first lie. Her mother, who confesses that in her youth, she also faced rumors because she slept around, mostly with guys that called her the contortionist, because she had low self-esteem before meeting Olive's father. Her mother encourages her, telling her that she's strong and can overcome the situation even better than she could. The next day at a school meeting, Olive sings a song wearing a revealing outfit and announces that she'll be doing a live stream that night with Todd, hinting at intimacy. However, during the stream, instead of keeping her promise, Olive reveals in a live stream the whole troop to the school watching her, which is all of the story she's been telling us. At the end, Todd appears outside of her window with a lawnmower and speakers playing a song in 80s style. Before ending the stream, Olive admits that she likes Todd and that she might lose her innocence to him today, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe in a month, but makes it clear that it's nobody else's business. Later, Olive goes out with Todd and they kiss. At its core, Olive's story is about feeling unseen and is constantly misunderstood. No matter how much she tries to explain herself, most people around her choose rumors and assumptions over actually listening to her. But the film also makes it clear that the opinions that truly matter come from the people who genuinely know you. Todd, her parents, and Mrs. Griffith never needed Olive to prove who she was, because they already understood her character beyond the gossip. The movie ultimately suggests that chasing acceptance at the cost of your own identity only leads to being alone. Trying too hard to fit into other people's expectations can make someone lose sight of themselves. What really matters is staying honest about who you truly are and trusting that the right people will recognize and appreciate that authenticity, even if not everyone else does.